So, good morning, everyone. I will resume our session here. And in today's part, we are going to cover three different aspects. The first one would be like custom sheet blocks. Okay, so we would be looking how to create those sheets and what is the difference between texting and labeling within the sheet so that you can connect it very well how this particularly the custom sheet block works. Okay, that's the first part. That would be the first part, but we would be looking at later in session. Secondly, we will be looking at two different aspects of working with rendering within the Revit system. So one is, as you know, which is the common system rendering in which you can type RR and just render it with the certain predefined default settings, right? Second aspect of working with it is working with the cloud rendering model. Okay. And the third part of it is connecting the entire model to the Twinmotion. So once you connect that entire model to Twinmotion, it will give you an realistic real-time rendering options where you can set up your own location within Revit. It will automatically connect. Once you change entire model onto Revit somewhere, it will automatically get synced with your Twinmotion interface. So we are going to look prominently on those two features with the help of rendering, like cloud rendering part, and the second part would be like uh, your Twinmotion aspect. And third, we are going to look at adaptive modeling. So adaptive modeling is something which is flexible enough, right? So in terms of adaptive modeling, I would say like if you are going to create a facade out of it, or if you are going to create a shell structure out of it, so then there is something which adaptive tool sets as well as the adaptive families comes into place. Okay, so we are going to discuss all these three aspects together. So I will just begin with one of the model where we are going to look at the cloud rendering aspects. Okay, I will just be sharing my screen. Right. So if I just move on, I hope my screen is visible. And so if I just move on to the 3D part of the entire drawing, so you can see here is something like the built up sort of structure, right? And if I move it into the shaded part, so the first step to work with the cloud rendering portion is like we have to establish the cameras as well as we have to establish our view, so that we have to take the rendering particularly prescribed to that particular view, right? So now you can see it has certain 3D views like approach. If I just showcase them onto, sorry. So if I showcase them, so this is the part where you have the approach part. So this is one of the view which has been setted. So all those views, once you click down onto the camera tab, you have this camera option over here. So once you move on to the plan options, this camera option will be activated. Just for an example, if I'm showing, I'm moving on to level number 1 and sorry. And from here, if I just pick this particular home tab, so here now you can see the camera and walkthrough options are available to you. So now you have to just set your camera and frame it. A view under the 3D views approach would have been created. So there are multiple views which has been already created in this part. Like if I just move on to approach, right? So this is one of the views aspects which has been captured. Similarly, if you have the courtyard, so you have this particular aspect, kitchen. So the first aspect of it is to have a proper view established within your Revit surface, right? So likewise, there are number of views which has been already established. So I would be working either on the kitchen aspect of it or from yard aspect of it, right? So this is the particular part. Now, once your views has been established, so now there is the part under the view tab. You can see I have an option of render, which I told, which is the part of system rendering, which once you hover over it, you can get easily like a short command for it, RR, and then it would have certain default settings. So you can go for all those settings, right? But it doesn't gives you a overall relatable or realistic sort of view. It doesn't gives you that particular aspect of it. So what I would be doing is I would be going on to the cloud rendering part. So now just let me take this part, okay, from yard. So there is other option which is known as cloud rendering. So as soon as I click onto the cloud rendering drop down option, there are two other options: render in the cloud and render the gallery. So there is difference, like once you make this particular view to be rendered, it will be rendering in cloud. That is the first option. And once this render has been complete, it moves out onto the render gallery. So you can access those particular renders from the render gallery part. Done. So I would be going for the render in cloud option. So now it asks like, welcome to the rendering in cloud Revit 24. To begin rendering, you have these three steps, right? So first step, as I already mentioned, select a 3D view and start the rendering part. And then once the rendering is been finished, you can get that particular render from the render gallery option. So I will just go on to the option of continue. As soon as I move on to the continue part, once you can see, it asks for the particular 3D view. So now you can see if I just have the my selected view from here is from yard. So it has already picked it. In case if you need something different, so you can select all those particular views from here, this option under the drop down boxes. Then which type of an output type do you need? Do you need an still type, panorama, stereo panorama, or illuminance? So under the render galleries or under the cloud aspect of rendering, there are four ways to render an image. One is like a stilt image, which is simple view of an view part, right? Second is the panorama part, where you can move with 360-degree angle throughout. And third is like stereo panorama, where you would require glasses or VR headsets to view around to have a proper visualization. And then the fourth part of it is like illuminance. So illuminance comes into play when you are trying to get the quantity or the sun rays to hit onto the surface. That's where the illuminance comes into play. Like if you are going to measure how much sun rays are going to incident onto a particular surface, then I would be going on to the illuminance part. Otherwise, it is not required. So I will just go with the still image option, and now it asks you for render quality. So once you move on to the higher qualities, it will ask you for the flex tokens. So if you are doing it onto the standard part or normal nominalized part, that comes with no token. So you can use them onto the part of for the visualization. So again, image size, whether I need an high quality image, a small quality image, like these are for the resolution sort of thing, right? So which sort of resolutions do you need for the particular image? So I am okay with the medium part. If I just move on to large, it will give me a notification that it requires an flex tokens over here. Okay, so this is like I have chosen medium and exposure. And if you need this notification, once this particular rendering is been done, so you can notify it via mail. So you will receive an email that the render has been completed. So if you need that, you can check this on, otherwise leave it as it is, right? And then I can go for the start rendering option. So once I did that, you can see under my login credentials, this sign has been syncing up. That means your rendering is in process. And once this will be done, you will get a notification via mail, or eventually once this stops, you can go on to the cloud render gallery part and you can fetch your renders from there. So it will take a while, then we'll go on to particular 3D aspects where to look for the rendered gallery. right? So uh, till that particular render gets done, so then we will switch back to that render. Till then, we will be looking how Twinmotion actually works. Okay. So it's quite easy to use interface, and as you can see, there are only 3 to 4 minimum options available, only which you need to explore it somehow. So one is like you have inbuilt libraries. So one basic thing or one basic I would say advantages of using Twinmotion is like it has incorporated huge number of libraries within. Right, so no such platform has integrated such a huge library system within their entire interface. So this is one of the thing which is an advantages of using Twinmotion. So it has multiple departments or categorizations. Then under this, you can eventually get like under the materials also you have the categories of materials. Like so, it has a vast sort of library within. Similarly, if you come to vegetation, landscape is a part where you can develop your own landscape out of it, where you can manage your contours and all to make it more realistic, as well as you have other features to populate out onto the surroundings like grass and flowers, detailed grasses, rocks, and so on, right? Then it has multiple 3D assets, which I was talking about. So it has a collab with Megascan images. It has a collab with Sketchfab images and the Adobe substances. So these are something like detailed out 3D elements, which they are providing an extensive library of which has been integrated with the Twinmotion or the Epic Game product part. And you have the HDRI environments. So once there are a number of sky environments you can play with. So once entirely, if you work with HDRI environment with the background, it will take all those reflections around, right? So all those things which you are looking will be with respect to that particular sky assets and its reflection part. It's a sky component part, basically. So if I just showcase you some of the libraries like Sketchfab libraries, so you can see this is something. So if I just open this in Sketchfab, this is something how the model is. S- So this is like animated sort of model which you can view around. So all these features have been inbuilt within the your Twinmotion libraries, library assets itself, right? So in this integrated details, you can see how integrated details does it has, right? So talking about the material part, like these are the part of Sketchfab libraries. If I just move on to uh, mega scans, so those are the scanning images. So wherever you need to have details based out of 2D, you can place those pictures and can create 2D. Like if I'm creating a footpath or a sort of strip sections within the road, so I can do those by using those picturizations tool, right? So under it as well, you have multiple assets. Now you can see balcony is there. So you have integrated balconies, beams, you have multiple beam sections. So likewise, all those stuffs you can do over here as well. So under mega scans, if I just move on to decals and let's say street, sidewalks. So these are number of textures which you can develop. So if I just drag and drop, it will act as in picture and then you can scale them down accordingly. Getting my point. Depending on the part. Now you can see how much scale does it has, and then you can arrange it likewise wherever you need to place. We'll try something else for this. Let us just, so I have logged in now, and now I can download this images particularly. Then I can bring this image over here. So now it has been loaded. See. So these are like the mega skin images is something like uh, which is 2D part of it, and you can have entire picturization accordingly. And the thing that you are that I'm showcasing on the screen is the path of path tracing, where you can get all the proper reflections out of it using the ray tracing and path tracing path. So for owning the path tracing part, you just need to click on this particular icon and you can go with the path tracing options. So all those materials which are there, they are proper reflections which you have already inputted onto the parameters side will showcase onto these aspects. How the sky would be, how the water reflections would be, and so on. So once this is done, it would appear as tick. And if you need to go out of it, you can come back. So this is the option for tracing down the path. This is path tracer. Right. So all those effects that you require, you can add on to all these aspects. Like if I just need to have a walkthrough or video out of it, I can cross by. If I need to have a certain interior section, I can go within the interiors part. I can look how the services or other things are getting managed within my structure. Now you can see this. It gives you a proper set of visualization or a process of visualization when you're working with the multidisciplinary aspects of building designs. Right. So you can also you can also use it for the review purpose, like where you find the integrated systems are right or not, or whether you need to enhance your aesthetics within. So all those things can be modeled and can be fetched out as a part of review as well in this particular interface. It has multiple options to work. Even when I say it's easy to use, it means it gives you the flexibility in terms of drag and drop options. So if I need to just place a material or some other sort of things, I just need to drag and drop the material. It will automatically take the entire surface. The only thing is like you need to categorize it onto Revit end, whether you are going to distinguish the part as an hierarchy or you are going to distinguish entire things based out of materials. So once you define different materials within the Revit interface, this will act very same onto Twinmotion. It will take the material properly assigned to a single material sort of entity. So different materials will have the different texturization over Twinmotion. Right. If I just need to have a top view of it, this is how it looks. So there are multiple aspects. One was like library factor, which was on to the left hand side, where you can access all those material libraries, any sort of 3D assets, right? And if I just switch back to this library option, your option will get disabled. If you need to on it, again click on it. Simple. Right. So one aspect was this, and once you apply the material, like I have applied it onto the roof and surface. So now you can see other options over here which gets activated once you apply the material. Whether grunge needs to be given, what luminosity it should have, rotations, scaling, right? So all those parameters you can enhance it from here based on how you look at the visualization part. So you can hit and try. So once you hit and try with these aspects, you will get to know what actually is happening with various other parameters that you are changing or enhancing, right? Uh, Other thing that I need to discuss was like in terms of environment. So from here, if I just each and even eventually, if you apply any of the 3D assets, you bring them onto this particular uh, interface. So it will create a layer of that particular assets or the family assets. So everything here also works same as what you work in AutoCAD with the layers. So you can see here is, if I just click on to this particular surface, this is metal roofing too. This is the layer. If I just off it, you can manage those layers accordingly within this particular platform as well, on and off. So likewise, this is quite helpful in utilization of entire building assets as well, to manage the building assets within for the visualization purpose only. Right. So these are like layers aspects of it where you can get all those things. If you need to navigate it differently, so there are four keys to navigate, that is W, Q, E, and A. And further, if you need to change down the speed of visualization, like if I just have it for speed number 5, which is car aspect, this takes me with the faster speeds in and out, right? So I can navigate in and out quite fastly. If I just move on to aeroplane mode, then it will be much more faster. It takes you to certain other space just by click. So you can manage all those parameters accordingly. So this is one thing. And the other aspect is to have your time visualization. So once you link your Revit file based out of particular location, it will detect the very same location onto Twinmotion part. But if you don't do that, you can also manage it via this particular option of day timing. So if you need to change the ambience, you can now even change the ambience accordingly. Right. So this is something okay to me. Right. And I will reduce the speed as well to 4. Right. If you further need to enhance the environment part, just click on to the ambience. You will have multiple options. Like if you need oceans, HDRI image, further details. So this is how you can set up your own location. According to the location, it will take the weather data stations and it will give you the proper sort of visualization based out of that particular location and weather data sets. Right. So there is the option of weather. You can play with further weather options accordingly, whether you need rainy or something like that. So you can go with those aspects as well. So this is quite wetty sort of. You can also see the wet patch onto the surfaces. So this is how you can make your views more realistic in terms of visualization, so that one can actually get what impact that does this building or the structure will make to its surrounding, or likewise surrounding to its building. So you can view all those aspects accordingly. Right. So these were the four things that I need to discuss onto the Twinmotion part of it. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask anytime. And I will be switching back to that particular cloud render part again. And then we'll take 10 minutes of break and we'll continue with the adaptive modeling part. So I would be moving back to the render gallery. Sorry, I do have, I guess. Yes. So now you can see, you can revolve around all these aspects of kitchen as well. So this is how the panoramic stereo panorama works. So basically, if you take the VR headset and connect with it, so then you can visualize it further better. So now you can move around the 360-degree angles of this particular view, right? So this gives you the more enhancing space, like you are there within the space and you are imagining how the space would look like. So that needs to have a connection with the VR headsets, right? So this is what it is, right? So if you have any questions as of now with these two part, like cloud rendering aspects and the visualization using Twinmotion, you can ask. And we'll take a 10 minutes of break and we'll continue with the concept of custom sheet blocks and adaptive modeling. Hope I'm audible, right? So if anyone is having any questions with respect to Twinmotion and cloud rendering, you can ask. We'll otherwise continue after 10 minutes with custom title blocks as well as with adaptive modeling facades. So now we will be looking at creating a custom family template. Okay. Sheet template, basically it would be a title block. So prior to that, it is very important to select a particular template. Early going on to the under the family types, I have the option of new. I would be going on to new, and I need to work within the metric system, not empirical system. So I will choose my family type using English, right? So as you can see, there are number of folders and there are number of family files. So if you need to work on those, choose that because it has a predefined template sort of system which has been embedded within particular file, right? So if you are making door, so that is with respect to doors. So similarly, we need something with respect to the title blocks, right? So over here, we have the option of title block. And now there are four predefined families here as a part like A0 matrix, A1 matrix, 2, 3, and 4, right? So if I need to create something of my own, so I need to go on to this particular option of new size matrix, and I will click on open. So once you do that, so it will give you an space where it has predefined settings, right? And it has a dimension of 297 by 210. That means it is A4 size paper, but on landscape part. So if you need to create any of your customized sheets, you can do that as well. So how to do that? So the basic option is to work with the line tool. Okay, so whatsoever you need to work with line tool, and there are two aspects related to it. One is you can see under the create tab, we have label, and other we have text. So the concept behind making your own customized sheet is you need to use text where you need the data to be very common centric, right? Where you need, where things are like you don't need to change them, but whenever you need to associate that text with something at something with, you need to go with the option of label. So फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर मैं कहूँ आपसे डेट, राइट? तो डेट हमेशा हर शीट में रहेगी, बट किस डेट पे वो चीज मॉडिफाई हो रही है, वो चीज चेंज हो सकती है, राइट? डेट चेंज हो सकती है, आज की हो सकती है, कल की हो सकती है, परसों की हो सकती है, लाइकवाइज। तो जो भी चीजें वेरिएबल के फॉर्म में है, जो कि चीजें चेंज होंगी, दैट विल ऑटोमेटिकली कम अंडर द पार्ट ऑफ लेबल, एंड यू आर गोइंग टू एसोसिएट टेक्स्ट विद द लेबल। तो फॉर एग्जाम्पल स्केल, राइट? तो स्केल हर टाइटल ब्लॉक में या हर शीट में रहेगा, बट डिपेंड ये करता है कि स्केल वेरी कर सकता है, विच इज 1:100 हो सकता है, 1:50 हो सकता है, लाइक वाइज, राइट? सो उस केस में हम उसको स्केल के पैरामीटर को लेबल से कनेक्ट करेंगे ताकि हम उसमें वेरिएबल फैक्टर्स दे पाए। सो सिंपल यही है बेसिक फंडामेंटल्स कस्टम टाइटल ब्लॉक्स का। सो टेक्स्ट इज समथिंग जहां पे आपको फिक्स्ड चीजों को लिखना है, और जहां पे चीजें वेरिएबल होंगी, जिसमें डेट्स चेंज हो सकती हैं, प्रोजेक्ट का नाम चेंज हो सकता है, राइट? डिफरेंट प्रोजेक्ट्स हो सकते हैं। सो लाइकवाइज ऑल दोस थिंग्स विच विल बी वेरिएबल फॉर अदर प्रोजेक्ट्स विल बी गिवन विद will be using labels on to that particular part. सो अगर मुझे ये शीट बनानी है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल आई नीड टू क्रिएट अ शीट ऑफ 420 बाय 297 विच इज A3 शीट, बट मुझे इसे पोर्ट्रेट में बनाना है, नॉट इन पर्टिकुलरली इन लैंडस्केप मोड। सो मैं इसको मूव कर देता हूँ डायमेंशंस को, राइट? सॉरी। So I need the dimension of 420 by 297. तो 297 इज राइट, और मैं यहाँ पे इसको कर देता हूँ 420। सो इन दिस वे, दिस इज एन A3 sheet which is not landscape but a portrait, राइट। सो अब मैं यहाँ पे अपनी चीज़ों को कस्टमाइजेबली डिफाइन कर सकता हूँ। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, आई विल गो अगेन ऑन टू क्रिएट ऑप्शन लाइन, एंड आई विल क्रिएट अ लाइन कि मेरा जो भी इस पर्टिकुलर शीट में टेम्पलेट रहेगा, दैट वुड बी समथिंग लाइक दिस, एंड दिस वुड बी द स्पेस वेयर मेरे पास बाकी सब चीज़ें आ जाएंगी, जहाँ पे मेरे एडिशनल टेक्स्ट फैक्टर्स, स्केलिंग फैक्टर्स एंड ऑल दोज पैरामीटर्स दैट यू नीड टू इनपुट विल बी एट बॉटम एंड ऑफ दिस पर्टिकुलर शीट। तो मैं इसको लोगो लगाना है तो मैंने लोगो के लिए एक स्पेस डिफाइन कर दी। सिमिलरली अगर मुझे शीट्स कुछ बनानी होंगी तो मैं शीट्स के हिसाब से इसको डिफाइन कर लूंगा। सो यू कैन क्रिएट ऑल दो शीट्स थिंग्स अकॉर्डिंगली, यू कैन मैनेज स्पेस। तो अगर मैंने इसको क्लिक किया, टेम्पररी डायमेंशंस एक्टिवेट हो जाते हैं। सो यू कैन मैनेज ऑल दोज थिंग्स बेस्ड आउट ऑफ टेम्पररी डायमेंशंस एज वेल। तो यहाँ पे भी मुझे 25 चाहिए, सो आई कैन शिफ्ट दैट अकॉर्डिंगली, राइट। तो इस तरह की स्पेस हो जाती है। सो सपोज दिस इज समथिंग व्हाट आई हैव डिजाइन, मैं कुछ और भी ऑफसेट कर देता हूँ। ये लेट्स से ऑफसेट शुड बी ऑफ 5 और 10 mm। तो ये मेरी शीट का ऑफसेट हो गया। सो दिस इज समथिंग हाउ द थिंग्स आर गोइंग टू वर्क, राइट। यहाँ मेरा लोगो आ जाएगा, यहाँ पे सर्टेन अदर फैक्टर्स आ जाएंगे, यहाँ कुछ प्रोजेक्ट नेम आ सकता है, समथिंग लाइक दैट। तो ये सब चीजें आपको एसोसिएट करनी है, एंड हाउ यू आर गोइंग टू एसोसिएट इट। जस्ट फॉर एन एग्जांपल, आई एम राइटिंग डेट ओवर हियर, ठीक है। सो डेट हर शीट में मेंशन रहेगी, बट डेट चेंज होती रहेगी। तो जो भी फैक्टर चेंज होगा, वेरिएबल होगा, वो लेबल से आएगा, और जो भी चीजें फिक्स रहेंगी वो आपके टेक्स्ट से आएंगी। सो फर्स्ट तो मैं टेक्स्ट लिख देता हूँ कि यहाँ पे मैं डेट की बात कर रहा हूँ। राइट। टेक्स्ट हाइट वगैरह आपको कुछ भी एडजस्ट करना है, यू कैन गो विद दिस ऑप्शन, गो ऑन टू एडिट टाइप। मान लीजिए छोटा करना है इसको, तो डुप्लीकेट करके आप टेक्स्ट का साइज में रिड्यूस कर सकते हैं ऑटोमेटिकली। सो ऑल दोज थिंग्स देयर विद इन द सिस्टम, you just need to explore them. Now I have to associate date with a label, right? तो create पे जाके अब मैं label पे जाता हूँ, और इस पर्टिकुलर चीज के लिए मुझे यहाँ डेट ढूंढनी पड़ेगी। So this is like sheet issue date. So I will add on the parameter sheet issue date and will apply an OK. Right? You can reduce again the text height. Suppose let's just take this, edit it. Let's take it 50% of it, like 4 mm. I will reduce the size by 4 and OK. So this is something the date. Similarly, uh, I will be going on to label text, edit, duplicate. So I'm talking about 4 mm again. Okay, and we'll make this as 4 line. Okay, so this is how the date would be. So once you take this entire things onto different sheets, you will have this parameter to edit upon. तो जब आप शीट को ओपन करेंगे तो ऑटोमेटिकली आपके पास डेट में 1 जनवरी 20,000 आएगा। तो जो जिस भी डेट पे आप वर्क कर रहे हो या शीट को इशू कर रहे हो, आप वो डेट डाल सकते हो ऑटोमेटिकली। सो डेट के आगे आपके पास पर्टिकुलर डे की डेट आ जाएगी, राइट। तो दीज आर दी थिंग्स लाइक हाउ वी आर रिलेटिंग वन ऑफ द पैरामीटर विद द अदर पैरामीटर्स। एक, ठीक है। नाउ सपोज देयर शुड बी द प्रोजेक्ट नेम और समथिंग लाइक दैट। तो उसमें लेबल, so this is like project name, right? I can go on apply now. So यहाँ पे आपका प्रोजेक्ट नेम आ जाएगा। तो यहाँ पे सिंपल आपको प्रोजेक्ट नेम दिख रहा है, बट अंडर दी सेक्शन प्रॉपर्टीज ऑफ इट, यू कैन इजीली नेम इट लाइक जो भी आपका मायरा हाइट्स है, राना एक्सोटिका। सो यू कैन नेम द प्रोजेक्ट अकॉर्डिंगली, राइट। तो ये इम्बेड कर दिया, देन यू विल बी सेविंग दिस फाइल सिंपली। save as family, and this would be, I can name it as under the desktop. This is A3 portrait. Save this file. And now you can load this file onto the project directly. Right, so let's just have a new project. Project templates English metric open, and now under the sheet, view sheets from the desktop, A3 portrait open. So this is how my sheet is there, right? So now you can see the date is something like this, which has been according to the project. So now you can enhance it accordingly. आज की डेट आ गई है, कल की डेट करनी है मुझे तो 18 कर दिया. That's it. Right. So a parameter has been developed, and now you can change those parameters according to the various project you are working upon. Similarly, there is this name named as project name. So this won't appear over here, but this will be there with project information. So here is your project name, right? So project name you can make Rana Sortica, right? Once you do that, the sheet has already accumulated that particular part. So this was with respect to your custom sheet blocks, right? So how to work with them, how to set up the parameters. So you can list down all the parameters that you need to embed onto your sheet, and then you can work accordingly by using text and labels. So this was the entire concept of custom title blocks. Right. If you do have any questions in this, please feel free to ask, and we'll take 5 minutes of break and we'll move with the adaptive massing designing. So now we will move with the option of massing, right? Adaptive massing. So there are a few concepts with it. Like the very first thing is you should determine what type of shape you are going to you are going to make. Right. So this is basically with when you are trying to make facades out of it, or when you are trying to make shell structure out of it. So these are most prominently helpful in those cases. Right. So the very first thing is, like, if I just open my paint option, right, and if I need to sketch, if I try to sketch, so suppose the structure is going to be something like this, right? S- So this will be like, I'm talking about the shell part, but this is the sectional elevation for the shell, right? Likewise. And if I talk on 3D aspects of it, this would be something like this. Then this is going to be something like this, and this is also going to be something like this. So if I'm going to create something like this parametric sort of shell structure within, so then uh, the adaptive families comes into place, so that you can flexibly place them onto the uh, entire surface which you are going to create. So the first step to work with this particular adaptive modeling part is to have a sketch or a surface. So you need to have surface, right, which would be under the massing and site, right? So once you do this, so your structure would get ready, right? Then you need to divide that structures into surfaces. Divide the surface into divisions, right? And the third step would be, without closing it, then what you would be doing is you are going to use the adaptive family option and create a component. And structure it. Then, so once you structure it down, then you can place all those elements onto this particular surface. So this is how the adaptive family is going to work. Okay. So I'm going to create this sort of shell structure. Will then, once I create this surface, I will be dividing this surface into uh, the number of divisions so that my components gets placed. Then I would be using the adaptive family, creating a component and loading that component back onto this particular surface. So this is how the adaptive modeling would be, right? So the first option to go with it is over here. So I would be going on to massing and site, and I need to place in mass to create an shape out of it. So suppose mass 1 is fine for me. As soon as I do that, all things are graded out, and now I am onto the mass system, right? And I will pick one of the elements to create my own structure. So I will choose this. So as soon as I have chooses any of the elements to work with, and the option to draw on the face is active, and I have a reference plane where I am working, right? So this points or any of the tools that I have selected would work on the face of this particular reference plane, which is an horizontal reference plane right now. So based on your uh, suppose based on your form, you need to derive the points accordingly. So as I have uh, as I have shown, this was the diagram, right? So according to this, I should have how many number of points if I'm working with points. So this would be the 1 point. this would be the other point, right? Similarly, 1 point over here, 1 point over here, 1 point over here, and 1 point over, in total 6. So I can regulate this surface, this end, I can regulate this surface, I can regulate this edge, and I can regulate this edge as well. But if you need to make it more precise, then suppose I also take one of the points over here to give it a height. So this would be one over here to give it the depth, and one again over here to give it the height. So in total, I should have 9 points with me to be to prepare this particular surface accordingly, right? So I would be going back onto the Revit interface, and I have to place 9 different points over here. So one, and right now you can do this basically using the line tab tools also. So you can place them on lines. If you don't need, I am just randomly placing them. Okay. So this is 1, 2, and 3. This is again 1, 2, and 3. So 1, 2, and 3. So I was requiring 9 points in total. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these 3 elements. I'm going to convert it into an spline. So now this has formed in plane. Now the points are getting converted into the plane part, right? So now it has been converted into particular plane. And if I need to create a form out of these 3 planes now, there are 9 points, 3 planes, and now with 3 planes, I'm going to create one single form. I will select all the 9 points together. I will go on to create a solid plane. So this is how the shape is. So if I go on to 3D, this is simple flat shape. I'll make it texture. So if I select this, you can see I have a 1 point which I can regulate over this particular edge. Similarly, I would be having other point over here and third point here. Similarly, other points will also be there, right? So if I just pick this up a little bit, so this is something how the shape is going to be, right? So I have created this. Similarly, I need this point to be beneath, right? So I have done that. Similarly, I need this point again to be something like this. And if I need this point to stretch accordingly, I can do that. I can make it little bit internally. And then right, so once you do this, this will be something like this. So this is in total how a structure should have been, right? So once it's at the top, I should mix this with the central part a little bit. Yeah, so something like this. Okay. So this is something the structure is. So once the first step we have completed, right? So we have 9 points in total, 3 planes, a single form out of it. Now this has been a surface. I would divide this surface into subdivisions. So once I select all the points and surfaces, then I can go on to divide option. So now you can see the surface has been divided into multiple grids, and you can manage those grids from here. So if I need it to be in more detailed part, so I can maximize the grid lines. So one is in the U direction, other is in V direction. Okay. So now this shell structure becomes something like this. Fine. And now what I need to do is I need to go on to adaptive family, and I need to create a component based out of this particular structure for this particular structure. So what I will do is this won't pick the part unless you make a notes onto this particular element, because you need to create an adaptive family via notes. So I will go on to this option of surface representation, and I will select this. I will click on to the notes part. So now you can see the entire structure is having certain notes. right? Mm. So there are 20 grids. That means the grids are in a square. So if you need any of the other grid sort of thing, you can have other patterns as well. So that will divide the entire surface into that particular patterns accordingly, right? So this is the other option. So right now I am leaving this as it is within the Revit part where I was working in massing and site option. And I have created a mask, so I will not finish it unless I will develop a component accordingly. So now I will be going on to new option, and from here I need a family template, and under the family template I need generic adaptive modeling. So this is the template that I'm going to use for the element purpose. So now again, you can see this is the reference plane, horizontal reference plane, right? And I'm going to develop a component out of it, which will have 5 points in total. Mm, let's say not 5 points, let's have 4 points for now. So because we have a square grid for now, okay. We can also have five, we'll develop that accordingly. But yeah, so I have the point. So I'm placing those points randomly. So I need 4 points, right, for a square shaped model. I will click on to all these points and will make them adaptive. So the purpose of making it adaptive is so that they can move as the shape is moving. If point is moving, shape should also move with the point. So that's the part. So now we have the points, and now I'm going to convert them onto lines. I will select them and I will join it via spline. So this is 2, this is 3, and similarly this is 4. So randomly I have created 4 points. Whether it is a square or not doesn't matters over here, because what we are going to do is we are going to make an element which is flexible enough so that it can automatically set into the grids that it has. Simple, right? So now I have my paths already defined. I have points, I have the directions, I have the path and edges. Now I need to define the shape of an element. So for this, I will again choose the line, and now I will click on that particular line with point and will choose that particular point. So the plane, reference plane gets set already. And now I need to model certain elements within. So suppose I'm using the circular element, and I will model it down with certain. So this seems fine to me, and I will choose this. I will choose the other path, all the 4 part together, and I will create a form. So now you can see a form has been created for this particular 4 points element. Done. And now I'm going to load this particular family onto my project. So which project am I working upon? Let's say this. So this is project 1. Done. Mhm. So this is like project 1. So I have loaded it onto the project, will be in 3D part, and now I'm going to place it over here. So now you can see it has 1 point. It's asks me for the second point, third point, and the 4 point. So now the element has been placed. And now if I just select the element and repeat it, it will take certain process and your shell structure will get ready accordingly. So now you can see this is how the shell structure looks like, right? So this is how when you are working with adaptive families, this is the entire process to work upon. And if I just make it a shit part, right? So this is it, and these were the topics that needs to be covered for the today's session. So if you have any questions with respect to the adaptive modeling facades or roof structures, shell structures, you can ask, and then we will go ahead with it. And now I will be finishing this mask off. Once the grids were on, I have placed a component within, and now I'm going to finish it, right? So now the entire, similarly, if you're working with the external facades, same sort of things comes into play. So this is like in a generic model, but when you are working with external facades or something like this, then it needs to be more parametric in sense, like it should have particular parameters which you can also regulate within the Revit environment to see how efficient your facades are or the openings are likewise. So this was like a generic sort of thing, which how to work with the adaptive facades and the adaptive model template, family template. Any questions? We'll wait for 5 minutes. If there were no questions, then we can wrap up the session. Mm. Similarly, let's just see this down using a 5-point structure. Okay, how that would be something in this place, and then we'll wrap up the session. So I'm just undoing everything. Right. Mm. So now I will be going back to the part of family template, and by so we have 4 points right now, and now we'll have a structure with 5 points, suppose. I'll also go for undo. I will delete all these stuffs, and we'll have one more point over here, suppose this, and we'll make it adaptive as well. Right, so now I'm going to create a form something like this. So this, sorry, this has been placed somewhere else. Done. Chalo. So over here, we'll make it adaptive. Right, I think they are in same plane, and not yet. Is it so? Sure. So let's take this up. right? And back to this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we'll make all the 5 points adaptive. We'll take this. Yeah, now it's taking. So this is something like the structure we are going to have. Not yet because the plane has been selected wrong. Mm. Oh, not working on this plane, working on this plane. Hmm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Done. We'll make it adaptive one way and the other way. Now I think it's in the horizontal plane. Right. Done. So this is it. Like this is like 5-point element, right? Something in more curvilinear shape. So now I have to draw an element accordingly. And we have set it a reference plane. We will element it accordingly. Say that's fine. I think that's 100. Okay. And we'll again set a point in the path. And over here, reference plane has been set. Now 100. Same dia, right? Choose the element, choose the path, create a form out of it. Choose the element shape, choose the path, create a form out of it. So now we have 5 points and this will be our element. And now let's add it onto the project. Override the existing version, done. And under the families, it would have been under the generic families. Right? So now I need to fix 5 points in total. Let's see how it is taking the part. So 1, and now where is it going? So I don't have a point over here. And this would be like suppose 2. This is 3. This is 4. And this is 5. So this is how the element has been placed with 5 points. Though it has been should be have been like this. Dia is high, no issues. We'll just repeat it and see where the issues are coming. So that depends on the form geometry as well. So this will give you on the basis of your grid patterns or something like this. So it hasn't taken some of the parts, right? Because of its own geometry. So this geometry also matters, and somehow the workable dias also matters. So depending on the grid type and all, so you have to set all those things accordingly. So in this way, you can also work with other parametric shapes as well, right? So now I can go with the option of finish mass. So this is it from my end. If you have any questions, please ask. Otherwise, we can wrap up the session. So you don't need to place mass on the building aspects of it. So once you have your building and you are designing for the facades, you will be developing a mass around your facade accordingly, and then you will be placing these components onto the facade end. So this is how means you have an structure already, and then you're going to work on its envelope, then it is useful. So that's only the case, like you have a building, you will set the reference plane down, and you will mass it accordingly according to the shape, and then you are going to impose these elements onto your mass part under the facades. So then this will take up the entire form structure. So your envelope is ready, then you have to create a little mass of it, and then is how you need to run your elements throughout your facades or your particular surfaces, which will be under the mass part, outside of your main building envelope part. Yes, we'll share all those recordings as well. On Friday or on Monday you will get them, because Friday I think we would be having the last session tomorrow, and then all the recordings of 5 days it will be shared to you by LMS portal. Okay. Okay, thank you guys. Have a nice day ahead.